Hey there, my name's Steve Goldberg, and I'm the author of A Better Camera for X-Plane, which I've just released a pretty major release, 1.7.8. I know that's a lot of numbers, but it's actually kind of the culmination of several years of really hard work, and I'm excited about it. And so I thought I'd do a walkthrough video just to show you kind of what all the cool features are and renew and review how the plugin works and how you can get started. That's the most important thing, because now I've made that 10 times simpler by making the entire plugin what I would call zero config, meaning you don't have to do any setup to get value from it. Obviously, there's stuff you'll want to do to really explore and use some of the cool features. You'll need to do some configuration, but not to get started. And that's what I want to show you today. So bear with me. I'm going to switch over to the simulator, and I'll be in the corner the whole time telling you all about this. Okay, so here we are. We're in the, I didn't click that button. There we go. We're in the cockpit of this aircraft. I just paused it because I'm running on fuel here. I've got the APU running. We're not going to fly, don't worry. I don't even know how to set this particular aircraft up, which is why I've got all these errors down here. But ignore all that. So what I want to show you is I'm going to take this, the plugin manager real quick, and I'm just going to turn off the plugin. This is it right here. And ABC is really resilient to this. It can be disabled and enabled as much as you want. However, you should never need to disable it, just for the record. It doesn't do anything that gets in your way, but you can be the judge of that when I show you. So what I want to start with is there's two general. So at a high level, the plugin, A Better Camera, replaces, as of this release, the entire X-Plane camera. There are a couple exceptions, but for the most part, anything that you do that's using the camera in X-Plane, especially the exterior camera, will be completely replaced or augmented by a better camera. For the interior camera, it's a different story because there's no like developer API per se for controlling and taking over the interior camera with a plugin. However, it's a very organic environment where lots of different scripts and plugins can do things to inject camera functionality into the cockpit. So ABC sits alongside all those. It doesn't take everything over like other plugins might do that do things with the cockpit camera. This is something that coexists with the rest of X-Plane very nicely. It doesn't get in the way at all. But it actually augments the number one most important feature, I think, in the cockpit, which is these numpad keys. So I'm going to show you real quick just with X-Plane. I've got a bunch of presets defined, right? I'm just hitting numpad 2 just then. This is numpad 3, just to kind of show you. And one of the things that X-Plane does by default, and we'll come back to this, is that it animates the camera motion, which is quite annoying, honestly. This is something that I wanted to turn off very early on, but discovered there was really no way to do. So what you're looking at is this is the built-in X-Plane camera animations. The other thing you'll note, though, is it's very slow, and that's not X-Plane's fault. That's not my plugin's fault. That's this stupid Mac that I'm using to record this video. And I really need to invest in a new Mac because this is just the worst configuration to run X-Plane 12. It doesn't matter what I do. I could strip the whole computer and just have X-Plane running. The minute I add this video recording, not the video, but the screen capture, into the mix, it just crawls to a grinding halt. And it isn't even that fast without that. So I need to get a new machine. So bear with that. Don't ascribe any of that to my plugin because it's not my fault, I promise. And then there's another set of features aside from these numpad keys that I mentioned and so ABC does some stuff there I'm going to show you in a minute. The other thing it does is it lets you take over all of these views, which are the external camera views that X-Plane provides. So many of you may be familiar with Circle. You just hit Shift 4. I'll just hit it. There we go. I hit Shift 4, and we come outside the aircraft. You'll notice that in X-Plane, anybody who's familiar with this knows that if you hit Shift 4, the camera's often pretty far from the aircraft, and it's also completely parallel to the center of the aircraft, which ABC has a better take on that I'll show you in a minute. And generally speaking, you can use the arrow keys, which I'm doing right now. You can use the right drag. You can scroll the scroll wheel to zoom, or you can hold down keys to zoom in and out. those are basically the features. There's also an E and Q key that lets you rotate your head left and right. Of course, if you do that when in one of these views, you can lose the aircraft and you don't know how to get back to it. There's no re-aim function in X-Plane by default. The only thing you can do is reset the view by hitting Shift 4 again, and it takes you back to this default view. So it very easily makes you lose your place, if nothing else. Also, switching views, if you switch to another camera view, for example, Shift 8 takes you to chase view, which is always behind the aircraft. It starts behind it. You can obviously move it by hitting the arrow keys as well. I say that, but it's actually, you can't move some camera views in X-Plane, which I'll get to, but you can in ABC. So you can use the scroll wheel. I said that to zoom already. But it is really slow to zoom. It takes a while, even when the machine's running fast, to do those zooms. And like I said, you can lose your place quite easily, especially when you're switching between different camera views. And you want to be able to toggle, which X-Plane does have a notion of toggling the view, but only for the current view against a saved view that's associated with one of your numpad keys. Oh, and you can program numpad keys to also be quick access to your external camera views. Although in X-Plane, interestingly, I know this because I just went through this in great detail, reverse engineering it last year. They only let you save circle view, ride along view, and chase view, as well as this new wingman view. I think they let you save free camera views. Yeah, they do, but they don't let you save tower views or still spot or linear spot views or runway views, but ABC does. And it has an algorithm for mapping them to different airports, but that's not relevant right now. The fact is you couldn't even save and restore those at all in X-Plane, but you can with ABC. So all you have to do is drop ABC into your plugins folder, and you're going to get that automatically. No change needed. That's the promise of the zero config that I talk about. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and, let me show you a couple more things really importantly. So let's do Shift 3 to go to the runway view. And one thing you'll notice here is, where's the aircraft? Well, this is our friend Zoom that we have to manually hold down and zoom all the way in to finally see our aircraft. And if we keep zooming, you'll notice that the aim of this thing seems a little bit off. It always seems to aim in the wrong spot. I don't know why. It doesn't need to. It didn't used to do this, so there might be something in my configuration that's causing that to happen, because I've not run with X-Plane's camera in a long time since I built my plugin. But the other one is Shift 5, so that puts the camera at the runway. Shift 5 puts it in the tower. You're going to like this one. So again, it's zoomed all the way out. It doesn't preserve the zoom when you switch back and forth. And now I have to hold down the zoom to find the user plane again. And guess where it is? It's behind this barrier, because it puts the camera in the tower at the location that the developer of the scenery, this is Memphis Airport. I don't know who's at, probably the stock one. I don't know. But it's got that bar right there that's in the way. And therefore you can't see the aircraft. Just coincidentally, I didn't set it up this way. But there are a lot of those types of things in the tower. It's really hard to see. And you're going to see why ABC does a superb job of helping with that problem in just a second. So maybe I'll just start from there, but let's go back to the cockpit, and I'll just switch over to enabling ABC. So we'll go back to the plugin. It's still in the menu, but it's disabled. So the whole ABC was not running at all. I promise you, no buttons were affecting ABC in any way until now. So now ABC is running. If you saw it get brighter, that's because ABC is actually, one of its many features is it can lock the sun in place. So it's actually locked the sun in a slightly different position now that it's running. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tap my modifier key, and you see what comes up here is a status bar. You can right drag to move it where you want it. I won't go into that in this video, though. There's a lot of configuration stuff you can do in ABC. This is about no configuration. So if you don't do anything, the status bar will appear when it thinks you need it, and it'll disappear automatically. So the one key you probably do want to bind is this modifier key that causes it to come up when you're looking for it. Otherwise, you may not know how to get it. One way is to switch camera views, and another way is to switch targets, which is what aircraft the camera lets you look at. But in this, so you see here, this is a little status bar that is built by ABC that gives you what aircraft you're currently tracking, which matters when you're tracking different aircraft. Doesn't matter at all if you're not tracking multiple aircraft. If you were to click on it, you might see, though, that there's a menu of all the other aircraft that are flying around the X-plane world that you wouldn't have known about otherwise. So those are here, and you can actually track them here, but I'll hold off on doing that for now. And then you can also see what view mode we're in. We're in an interior cockpit view, and we're currently looking at saved view number 1. And what that means when it says ACF quick view number 1 is it means aircraft-specific views, because ABC has the notion of global views that'll apply to any aircraft. Believe it or not, it actually works very well in ABC. And those are actually there by default, and I'll show you those in a minute. But it also lets you know that the numpad 1 key is what brought that view up. So we just happen to already be in that key, because it turns out the W key in X-plane will always bring you to the default cockpit view. And in this particular aircraft, I haven't modified the default view, and that's why it noticed that it was already quick view number 1. But if I hit the 2 key, it's going to say, oh, this is quick view number 2. And it takes you to the same exact curated quick view number 2, and it animates just like it did in that. So you see, it's the same exact thing. I did 3, that's 4. But you get this feedback here. And by the way, the feedback is pretty cool, because you see how it says 4. If I zoom out, or let's say I just move away from it, it stops showing as quick view number 4. But if you move back, there it is, quick view number 4. Just within a margin, ABC sort of tells you this is the view you're back to the view you had, plus or minus some margin. And the zoom also will affect it. So if we zoom in a lot, for example, then that goes away. Of course, I lost it, so I got to hit my key again to get it back. There it is. You can also lock it on. In fact, for now, I'm going to lock it on just to make it easier, so we know it's always going to be there. But understand that by default, it goes away. And you can just click on it to lock it on, and then click this lock to make it go away again. And it'll go back to how I explained earlier. There are also many settings you can change. You can change things till you're blue in the face in a better camera. So there's other stuff in the status bar. You can actually go into settings and remove, like there's this nearest airport, and there's this feature zoom lock, which is really an X-plane feature that ABC makes easier to use, that lets you turn off the scroll wheel to zoom in the cockpit so that you can use the scroll wheel to adjust instruments. But if you hold down the modifier key, then the scroll wheel becomes zoom instead. That's what ABC does. There's also in X-plane 12, they just added a similar feature, but again, they did it wrong. They'd made it universal. With ABC, once you've turned on zoom lock, if you go outside the cockpit, which is the next demo anyway, scroll wheel zoom will automatically work. It isn't defeated everywhere. It's only in the cockpit, and only in the cockpit of the user plane, because you can actually take the camera into the cockpit of AI planes too. So what's cool about ABC's version of this, though, is that you notice there's this anim down here. So far it's been identical to X-plane. If you click this anim button so that now animations are turned off, that's a global feature of ABC. It means for anything where ABC controls the camera, which is almost everything now, it means there will be no animation. There's one exception I'll get to in a second, but so if I hit the 5 button, it goes straight to my numpad 5 view, the 1 button, numpad 1 view, the 0 button, right, 8 button. But now here's where the exception is. This view has zoom in it. And if you save a view with zoom in any other plugin, one that shall not be named, you can't save and restore zoom in cockpit views because X-plane doesn't support that. It's really unfortunate that they don't. I'm hoping someday they'll fix that. But for now, the only way for a plugin like ABC to load a view that has zoom in it is to animate that view by simulating a user hitting the plus or the equal key or whatever key it is to send the command to zoom in or zoom out. So that's unfortunate, but that's the reality. So there will be animation because there's no other way to do it in X-plane. It has to take multiple cycles, therefore it has to animate. So this one's also, but ABC optimizes away those zooms if they're the same. So these two window views happen to have the same zoom level. This is view 9, this is view 7. or if they're close enough to, it optimizes away the zoom and averages them out so that it doesn't have to keep doing it. But when you go back to, let's say, numpad 1, you're going to, oh, well, you didn't see it because when it's a 0 zoom, zoomed all the way out, you can jump to that. X-Plane makes it easy for ABC to generate a zoomed out view. It's really hard to generate a zoomed in view. But if we turn back animations back on, I just used a keyboard shortcut to do the same thing as clicking that button. Then if I do it, you'll see a little difference. So here you didn't even see the zoom because it was built into the animation, right? You don't see the zoom. But when you go back to the cockpit, to the main cockpit view, if you observe, especially since it's running really slowly, you'll see the little zoom at the end. That's just a vestige of my algorithm not being perfect at predicting how many frames it's going to take to do the zoom. But it ultimately does the correct zoom. And I also thought it was cool to show the zoom on the way out. If I turned it off, it would jump zoom and it would look weird. It wouldn't look the same. So it's kind of a trade-off I had to do to work around X-Plane zoom. So there you will notice some little differences like that between ABC and X-Plane, but for the most part, they're better, not worse. And the reason you want to use this feature is that ABC provides you a menu that actually lets you pick up to 20, because there are 20 cockpit view or saved view locations in X-Plane. But Laminar, in their brilliance, only predefined the first 10. They didn't give you keyboard shortcuts for the other 10, for 11 through 20. And so you would have to go do that. And in the spirit of zero config, I'm going to act like I don't already have, on Windows, it'd be Alt and then one of the numpad keys to get that plus 10, or on Mac, Shift and one of the numpad keys to get that plus 10. But you can go add those yourself, but it's a pain. So if you only have 10, then you can still use these other 10. And ABC actually pre-populates all 20. In fact, if you click this global toggle here, it shows you what would happen if you held down the modifier key. In fact, I can unclick that and you can see if I hold down the modifier key, it turns on as long as I'm holding it down. So the global views are the ones provided by the system for all aircraft. ABC gives you a set of 20 default views, but you can redo any of them. You can memorize your own global default views. And all you have to do that is hold down the modifier key when you memorize the view. And then memorizing a view is exactly the same as in ABC. In X-Plane, you don't even need to have this menu, but it's just there for visual aid. You can hold down the control key, and now you're in memorize mode, and you either hit a numpad key, which is how you normally do it in X-Plane, to memorize a view to the current view to a particular numpad key, or you can even do these 11 through 20 ones. This is the aircraft-specific version, not the global one. So we can save this current view in slot 12 if we wanted to, just by clicking. And in fact, you could even save it as the global one by first doing that. Now you're controlling whether it's global or not. And the other thing is, when you do this, if you use the numpad key, in fact, not the numpad, it is the numpad, but I'm going to just get rid of the menu. If you use control and then let's say numpad 1, it doesn't automatically make the correspondence. It asks you, please confirm it, and then it counts down, albeit roughly. It counts down, and then once that message goes away, it's over. So if you don't hit it a second time during that window of the countdown, it won't take. And that's actually saved me and lots of people, anecdotally, from many horrible situations where they would have lost their favorite views just because they accidentally held down the control key too long when switching. So ABC makes sure that, and you can turn that off, so it'll let you not have that protection if you don't want. The other thing is, you might be worried if I save a view with ABC running and then I take ABC out, will that view be gone? No, it won't be. For interior views, it will be for exterior views because they aren't the same. But for interior views, they're exactly the same. So if I save a view using the control numpad 5 method or even using the menu, ABC on that second confirmation, or if you don't have confirmation on the first time, it will pass that also to the X-Plane handler so that it'll look like you actually did it in X-Plane. So that ends up saving the view to both the prefs.txt file, which is where views get saved associated with each aircraft, and a new file that I create called abc.txt associated with the same aircraft. that contains extra data, including all sorts of stuff that helps with auto adjusting views in different planes and also in different models of the same plane. There's a lot going on behind the scenes I won't go into, but it's a very sophisticated system, and you get it all for free automatically just by having ABC in your folder now, in your plugins folder. Now, the most important part is the external cameras, because this is what I just changed. I've had lots of users using all of the features I just described for a long time now, for a year. But now, this next set of views is these external views that I showed you earlier. And I'm going to hit the shift keys to get them. That's the new zero config part of this. So if you hit shift 4, for example, to do circle view, this is the ABC circle. I did turn animations back on, just FYI. So this ABC circle does exactly the same thing as X-plane circle, but it gives you better control over where the camera starts anytime you start a new circle view, and it's just a more powerful system overall. For example, you can use keyboard shortcuts that you would have to define to use them to do things like quick skip. So here I'm skipping, and if you turn off animations, you can do this quick skip in one click instead of having to wait, right? So this is a 60-degree skip, so you can skip to 180 by doing 3 clicks, and you're back to the other side of the aircraft. You can also hit reset view, which is actually this button right here. Let's do that again. Hit reset view, and it restarts the view just like hitting shift 4 would in X-plane. And hitting shift 4 also does that. So if I move the view around and I hit shift 4, it'll take us back to the default view. Now, how is this view different from X-plane's default view? Well, it's zoomed in slightly. The camera's much closer, by the way, and the camera's higher by default. So let's show you the difference. I'm just going to bring up the X-plane version, because you can still get to X-plane's version if you need to. So this is the X-plane version. And the way you do that is you hold down the modifier key when you hit shift 4, believe it or not. So if you hold down your X key, if you have X set to be the ABC modifier, you hit X first, and while holding X, you hit shift 4, and it'll work. So that gets you back to X-plane circle. ABC tells you it's X-plane circle down here in the bottom of the status bar. And you notice that we're looking the same direction, because circle view is defined by which direction it's heading, but I won't go into that any further than just that. So this is the same exact view in terms of the heading, the camera heading. It's looking that way, not relative to the plane, but relative to the north, south, east, west of the world. So it's always looking due north in X-plane 12. It's always looking due south in X-plane 11. Unfortunately, they changed it. I don't know why. And they changed it halfway through X-plane 12. So actually, ABC knows that and tries to match the semantics, but it can't always get it right. So here we are facing north, and but as you see, the camera's always even with the center of the aircraft, and it's very far away, whereas if I hit shift 4 again, ABC aims the same place. It also has a curated visual center of each aircraft that might be different than the physical center of the aircraft, which is what X-plane's using. So it actually generally will look better too. And it's 6 degrees above the aircraft. And you can set all that in settings. Oh, I should actually not use a keyboard shortcut for that. So if you go to the plugins menu, the very first thing is opening the settings window. And this is sort of like a user's manual for using the product. And I don't want to go into it now except to teach you that it exists. And to show you the basic navigation is you can either use one of these red tags and just click a tag to bring up all related things to that tag, and maybe turn expert off, which would be, for you, it would be off by default. And then you have still the ability to drill down. If you type something here, it starts a new query. But if you type something here, it drills down into the results to find a specific thing. But you really don't need to, because what you can do is toggle all closed, and you see they all fit on one screen anyway. But basically, they're all like a half page or so. Some of them are a full page of information about it's sort of like a user manual plus a simple picker. It lets you pick either on or off in this case. We actually support in ABC both the original X-plane compass-based rotation mode, which is what we're using, or you can also have it be target relative, where you define where you want each view to start relative to the target, which then treats it differently when you switch between targets. Otherwise, it does exactly what X-Plane does if you're familiar with it. It stays aiming in the same direction, which you don't have to stay north. You can obviously change the angle. Once you do, though, if you switch to a new target, it's going to be at that new angle based on whichever of these two methods you're using. And then you can tell it where you want it to be aimed. You can actually give it a compass number if you put it in expert mode. And then there's, that one should be, this rotation here should actually be expert, but it's not tagged as an expert setting. I'll fix that. So the distance, how far do you want the camera away? So if I put like 2.3x and let's try reset view, that's a little closer to how far away X-Planes is. And then if we say, well, you can't go down below the default zoom. The default zoom is calculated based on your field of view. ABC tries to give you a good experience. So it takes the field of view into account. It doesn't give you a number. It just calculates a preset, and then it lets you increase that only in the preset setting. And then there's this view height angle, which I told you was 6 degrees above. That's the default. If we make it parallel, we don't go below in the presets either. But you can set these in expert mode. You can type a number, right? And you could put negative if you wanted to. But so I've set it to parallel. So now with it being parallel, and I didn't leave it as 2.3x, did I? Where's one more up? There it is, 2.3x. Now, if we do shift 4, that's the default ABC view. This is still closer than the default X-plane view, which is here. And you notice the X-plane view is aimed at somewhere in the back, like right here. That's not the correct center. The correct center is somewhere here. So if you go back to X-plane, you see it's shifted a little. And this might not be the perfect aircraft for this. This is a weirdly shaped aircraft where the center of gravity is hard to argue about, the visual center of gravity. But if we switch to another plane, which we can also do just by using this next button right here, the camera, since animations are off, it just jumps to the next aircraft and it's looking the same direction because this is circle view. But we can always, change it using one of those keys I showed you earlier. There's also up and down. I didn't actually show you that. And there's also jump back 2x each time, jump forward 2x each time, or a half x or whatever. There's also quick zoom. And if we go over here and go like that, we can also do this cool effect, which is a zoom effect, I call it, where it basically moves the camera back 50% and then zooms in. I just kind of reset it, but it moves back 2x and then zooms in 2x at the same time. There we go. Zoom out. So this one way is this way and one way is that way. So those are all really cool. They're all in the same spot in the settings, in the keyboard shortcuts section. And there's a couple others. There's a re-aim. So if you've managed to rotate your heading off of it, you can just say re-aim and it comes back. If we turn animations back on, then all of these things are accompanied with an animation, right? Everything's animated. There are some issues with the animations for the exterior views that I'm going to fix in the next version, but they're still pretty good. They're better than nothing anyway, because X-Plane is very inconsistent about its camera animations, but ABC lets you turn them off, so you don't really need to worry about it. And then I wanted to show you Shift 5, so I'm going to do Shift 5 now. I got to go back to the user plane. So there's a button for that right here. There are lots of ways to get back to the user plane, but that was the same view just now applied to this plane. I'd moved the camera. So to get it back to the default, you just hit Shift 4 again. Or in this case, I want to go to the tower. So let's go up to the tower. You can see it up here. So I'm going to hit Shift 5. And right away, I don't know if you remember what we saw when we tried this from X-Plane a few minutes ago. You should compare it. This is a superior tower view. It's going to track the aircraft as it moves around. By the way, we can do the quick zoom to zoom in quickly. We don't have to hold it down. It's already zoomed in, by the way, because ABC has a really cool feature down here called auto zoom. And if you turn that off, then you're going to get instant zoom out. And this is almost the same view you get with X-Plane. But do you see the difference? Those obstructions aren't in the way. And the reason the obstructions aren't in the way, I'm going to rotate the camera down is we're above the tower. We're not in the tower. So what ABC does, and you can re-aim to get back and turn auto zoom back on, and we can zoom in again if we want all the way to it. In fact, let's turn auto zoom off and I'll show you the quick. There's a full quick zoom command that goes as far as it wants. It's 100x, I guess. It's not really, but if you just hit one button, it zooms all the way in, and one button zooms all the way out. That's on every view, not just on spot views, because spot views are the only ones that allow you to do this auto zoom feature. So it'll keep you aimed at the target, and so let's switch to one of the other targets. That one's really far away, but you can still see it barely. Some of these are way too far away. There's one. So if I turn off auto zoom, you can see it's just above us there, right? And this is demonstrating auto roll. So this is auto roll off. And we look at the target, we'll turn auto zoom back on, and then we'll turn auto roll back on. And that should give you a visceral understanding of the difference. One is where the camera is fixed relative to the earth. It's flat. It's only able to see. I got to turn off auto zoom to do this. So with auto zoom or auto roll off, the earth is flat, or not flat, but you know what I mean? It's parallel. We're looking parallel to the earth. And so if the target is turning and rotating in various ways, the camera will show it at that angle. Versus if this is an innovation, by the way. I don't think anybody else has ever done this. If you turn auto roll on, the camera's on more of a swivel. And when you're looking at the target, it's turning to try to keep the target as straight looking as it can relative to everything else. It's kind of like the difference between circle and ride along view. But anyway, I'm going to hit Shift 4 to show you that I had animations off. Let me do that again because I want you to see. I got to hit Shift 5 again. Yeah. So now I'm going to turn animations on and do Shift 4. And you see ABC animates from the tower all the way to the circle view for this aircraft. And see, I don't like it in this mode that we put it in. I'm going to put it back at 1.7 and 6 above because I like that better. So that's where it's going to be on this aircraft. And one thing that you may not realize is that X-Plane is completely failing to account for the sizes of all the aircraft as you switch between them. I'm going to turn off animation. So whereas ABC is able to keep the camera in the same relative position, this is using circle view. Let's switch. We can do it here, in which case you can switch in place. So we can switch to a ride-along view, which doesn't reset the camera. So that's how you can do that. You can do a takeover of a view from another view. And now we're using the semantics of ride-along view. And what that means is that the camera will be in the same logical position relative to the aircraft, no matter what. So here we are iterating through all the AI aircraft that I have set up, and the camera is always right there. And I'm just hitting a keyboard shortcut that's the same as hitting this button right here. That's all I've been doing. It's just that the button moves. I have to come up with a better way to do that for people who don't want to have to make keyboard shortcuts. But anyway, or you can obviously go straight to a target in in ABC. You can't do that in X-Plane. X-Plane does allow you to switch the camera between targets. In fact, I'm taking advantage of that. But X-Plane doesn't give me a way to like go directly to a target. I have to say next, or previous, and then it wraps around. So here's another cool feature. If you hit numpad, let's say 7, because I happen to know that's a good view for this aircraft. I'm going to hit numpad 7, and we go straight inside the aircraft and look out its wing for this AI aircraft. So we didn't go back to the user aircraft's numpad 7. Oh no, we went back to this aircraft, and you can toggle numpad 7 to get out of it. So going back to the previous view, which is this one, if I turn animations on, you'll get a little better treat. It's not perfect, but it's a really cool animation, which again is very slow because of my Mac. Takes you back to looking down the wing, basically. And then we can do 9. We can do 1. So this does not work in X-Plane without ABC. This lets you use the numpad keys that were built for this aircraft, the prefs.txt file for this aircraft, which is, turns out this is a citation, so it's not the best example. Let's go to a different aircraft. There we are in the Beechcraft Baron, and we preserved the camera something that ABC does automatically that X-Plane doesn't do. So this is a completely different aircraft, and yet I'm able to use the numpad to get preset views for this, and I can also use the ones 15 through, oh, I'm cheating. I told you I wouldn't use the Shift or the Alt version. Get one of these ride-along views. This is the default view for every aircraft, period, no matter what. You can go to any aircraft, so we can use this to switch to another aircraft. Let's go to the Cirrus here. And it's already there because ABC preserves the views, so we're already in Quick View 17. And we could maybe switch to 19 for the other side. And then we could just hit a keyboard shortcut to go to the previously targeted aircraft. And then we can pick another one from here. Airbus, a much bigger aircraft. And you notice that it's the same view. The wings are a little bit more swept, and it's hard for me to get the math right for every type of shape of aircraft, but it's pretty close. And it does preserve, let's turn off animations. It does preserve, in this case, ride-along views for every aircraft. And here I'll do that numpad 9. Oh, I did it again. I wanted to have the animation because that's the cool part. So there we go, right into the aircraft and to the animation. I mean, to the numpad view that's saved for this aircraft. So this comes for free. You can actually make a full video. You could lie to the user, except that these aren't always updated. You know, you can tell it's not the user plane, that it's an AI plane. Most of the stuff's off, right? But it's still kind of cool. You can show the cockpit views for an AI plane as if it's the user plane and use all the same numpad keys. And if you wanted to, if you were someone who only ever wanted to hit the numpad keys and have them take you back to the user plane, even if you were tracking a different plane, you could turn a setting on an ABC that says, don't do this. Just always apply the interior numpad keys to take you back to the user aircraft. And you can actually see that in this menu, by the way. So right now, these are the aircraft, these are the quick views that are defined for this aircraft. If I hold down, if I hit this user button or hold down a different modifier key called the smart key, it's a second modifier key in ABC, that means that now any one of these that you open is going to go into the user aircraft instead of the current aircraft. Okay. So I'll do that. I'll hold down that smart key, which is the A key on my assignments, and I'll hit 5 for numpad 5. And we go to, you see down here, it says number 1 Cessna citation. It switched instantly. There's no animation because you need to get back to your cockpit. It animated to the spot, but it didn't animate the target change. And then we can hit, there's a command called re-aim that I showed you earlier. So you can just hit that to always put the camera facing forward. And then you can tell we're on the ground. This is not the airplane we were just in. But the really cool thing is you can go back to that aircraft. I've already changed the view so we can't toggle back. It would have worked, but I can just go back using the last target command. I must have missed it. There we go. And it takes you back to the previous target, in this case, preserving the interior view. It'll actually preserve and map interior views to any aircraft. So here we are. This is a tiny plane compared to the 330 right here. But if we switch to it, you notice that ABC is able to remap the camera position between these targets. And I can go into that in a video later. I have already done a video on it, but it's a whole nother cool feature of ABC that you just get for free just by having installed it. That's all you got to do. And some of the commands you'll have to go look for to do all these various things. I'm happy to answer questions anyone has. But basically the change this time around is that this view menu where you have the external list of all the commands, track weapon doesn't count. That's not, ABC treats them completely differently. They're just targets, and you can use the current view mode to track a target, a weapon. But you can use any of these view modes. I didn't show you runway. I'll show you that one real quick. But here's the trick. You have to use the keyboard or the joystick to choose these commands. If you choose them from the menu, if you go up here and you say change external runway, you're going to get the X-Plane version, and ABC will help you out and let you know. That doesn't stop you from still doing all the commands, by the way. So if I hit quick zoom, for example, ABC immediately takes over that runway view, converts it to what it calls a drop spot view. You see it down here. And now it's created a spot view from the same position as the X-plane runway command, which is different than the ABC runway. Notice how it's aimed wrong? That's because X-plane named it wrong. But you can use the re-aim command to fix that. And now we're aimed properly. And you can zoom all the way back out. And now you get auto zoom because we're in the spot view. You couldn't just turn auto view on from, but you could have taken over the spot view. So if I hit this button, we're back at XP runway. So I basically undid the last set of changes. We're back at XP runway, and I can hit another keyboard binding, which is the take over the view command. There it is. It's called tether, and it converts the view into an ABC view. So whatever it is, it in place converts it. Might be some minor change to the way it looks, but that's the view. And now auto zoom is on, so it got that for free. If we turn off auto zoom, and we do that again, so we're back in X-plane runway view, and we take it over. Same thing happened, but now you can't see the target until you do this. It just kind of proved that the view didn't really change substantially. It didn't even re-aim the view, which is kind of that's a feature, really. And the other thing that I didn't mention was that with runway view and with tower view, you can't move the camera. So where that thing was obstructed when I showed you earlier, I'll just quickly go back to that. So this is the X-plane view, and let's zoom in, and you see how my plane is obstructed. I'm hitting the up arrow and the down arrow. I can turn the camera, but I can't move the camera in X-plane. But in ABC, I'll just take it over in place. It's in auto zoom again, isn't it? Yeah. So it redid the zoom. If I hadn't had auto zoom on, it would have preserved my zoom as well. But now I can actually move up, down, left, or right, or I can use any of my commands to quick move. And I can reset the view to show the default ABC version of the view of tower spot instead of the old lower one. And you can go into settings, by the way, and you can change the distance. I think it's 16 meters for whatever reason. I picked 16 meters as the default height that it adds to whatever. So it always adds 16 meters by default to the height of the tower. And that's useful because a lot of scenery that doesn't actually have a tower, X-plane will generate one at ground level next to the target. So if you're next to the user plane. So if you hit the tower view at one of those airports, it looks horrible. It's just like a circle view or something, except it's a tower, so you can't move it. Whereas with ABC, the same exact situation, it'll put it up in the air looking down at the target from next to it. It'll still be in the same place, XY plane, but it'll be up high, 16 meters, which isn't that high, but you can change that. You can make it twice as far up if you want. You can do whatever you want. The nice thing about that is that getting up 16 meters above the tower gives you the chance to see more targets, not have as many obstructions, even when they're close to the tower. But you can still push it up higher if you want. And you can always just move it up like this. ABC allows you to do everything that you should be able to do. I didn't really show you the other views, I did show you a little bit, but not a lot, like ride along and chase views, but they work the same as X-plane, but again, better. There's a couple places where they're not identical to the X-plane version of those views. And if you're a user who is sensitive to that and you notice it, I would love you to ping me, go on the forum and go to PM me on at SL Goldberg on the xplane.org forum. I would love to hear from you and see if I can make you happy, because I do want to make it work perfectly for everyone who's trained on using the X-plane. Sorry about that. Who's trained on using the X-plane camera, so that they have no reason not to use ABC. Because I want you not to have to change your workflow at all. But if you want the new features that I provide, you can then add to your workflow. But I don't want to force you to change how you did things before. So if something's not working quite right, whether it has to do with joysticks, the hat switch, I played a lot with that today because I thought there was a problem, but there isn't, as far as I can tell. So if you're one of those people who likes to do things differently than how I just did it, and you're finding an inconsistency, I definitely want to know about it, because I want to improve that. But basically, I would say it's only now that I've been able to achieve this after years of slaving away at it, to actually recreate every aspect of the camera. There's one feature that it doesn't do right now, which is moving the moving towers. So if you have a tower view inside an aircraft carrier or outside an aircraft carrier, that won't work properly in ABC. You'll need to use the X-Plane version of tower and runway for that. I actually do support that. It's just that I didn't wire it up quite, and I haven't tested it yet. So it'll be in the next version. But if you're someone who cares about that, I'd love to hear from you so that I can know that there's someone waiting for that. Because if I don't know it, I might not prioritize it very high. But there's also, by contrast, a feature that I have that X-Plane doesn't have called Moving Spot, which I'm not going to demo. I'm just going to show you where it is in the menu. I don't even know where. There it is. So it's down here, Moving Spot. If you click this, you'll see what it does. And there's two different targets you have to choose. Which target are you spotting from and which target are you spotting to? Because the camera is going to be moving, or the camera will be tracking one aircraft while watching another one fly around. And it's kind of interesting. I've seen that before, so it's not unique to ABC, but it's not something that X-Plane provides. All right, sorry, I've gone over my time limit again. I'm sorry about that, but please do let me know if you have any questions, or just go to the forum. There's a thread linked from the main download page, and I'm not going to give you all that data here. Just search on Google for a better camera X-Plane, and you'll find the main download page quickly. It's usually the first link. And then from there, you can read some of the text that tells you where the discussion forum is on the same site. And rather you not try to have a discussion on the download page, but find the thread where we actually have a discussion thread for ABC. But worst case, you can always PM me and I can send you a link. All right, thanks very much for watching, and I hope this was useful to someone. All right, see ya.